Where my girls at? Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We ain't linked up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right.
Where my girls at? Where my girls at? It's going down. It's going down. Happy Friday, everybody. It's going down on this Friday. We are so excited to be here with you as we are Monday through Friday on 9:10 a.m. The Superstation. You are here with the force of friendship, and we got issues. OMG, so many issues. Everybody have them. We have them. You have them. Guess what? One thing's for sure about issues. I don't care if you're young or old. Sooner or later, you're gonna have some issues, but we are excited. We come every Monday through Friday, bringing some light, some laughter, and the lessons. And when I tell you, we've had an amazing 4 days of awesome shows, and today is no different. When I tell you, I'm so excited to be here on today, and we have a special guest, Mr. Andrè Johnson, who's with us on today. And yes, you'll meet him formally in just a few minutes. And it's a lot going on in the country, and it's a lot going on in the world. But can you guys believe that it is countdown? I think we have 15 days until Christmas. I can't even believe it. I know we did the show on Ho 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 or Bah Humbug. It is right around the corner. And so on today, as I was just kind of thinking about that show, and all of the girlfriends are definitely ho ho ho. We love this time of the year. We spend it with our family and our friends, and we have a lot going on. We have very full lives, but sometimes we forget about other people who this isn't a joyous season for them. And so we're going to be talking about, what do the lonely do at Christmas? I'm telling you, the statistics are alarming, and it just really makes you, a couple of things: be thankful and grateful if you aren't lonely during the holidays. And number two, to be more aware, more cognizant of, not everybody feels the way you feel around the holiday season. And sometimes, you think, oh, bah humbug. But you know what? Somebody told me this a long time ago. Until you walk in somebody's moccasins, don't judge them, because you don't know, especially with COVID. So much has changed over the last 2 years. And so we're going to talk about that on today. Well, I'm here today. We don't have perfect attendance on today. We did on yesterday. And so today I'm hanging out with my girlfriend, Sabrina Goodwin Monday. She is live and in person on our Facebook page, either the 910 or the Force of Friendship Facebook page. And she got her baseball cap on today, and she's hanging out with me. I'm hoping that, I think Caterina is traveling, and I think Gloria said she's going to jump on a little bit later. She's traveling as well. So you know what? These girlfriends are super busy. So when you have full attendance, trust me, they get a gold star in the center of their forehead, because I promise you, at any given time, somebody is on a plane. So I'm going to throw it over to my girlfriend, Sabrina. What's going on in Geneva on the Lake, Ohio?
Hey, Chris, still got a cold, trying to feel better, still not 100%, sucking on these halls, excited that we are, excuse me, having this conversation. You're right. When everybody else is hoing, that's not everybody's story. We definitely need to be aware, pay attention, bring hope, love, joy as best we can to those who are not feeling it. So I'm glad that we are having this conversation today. Missing our other girlfriends. It is a busy time. I mean, I cannot believe that we are so close to Christmas. So close to Christmas. And in a minute, it's going to come and be gone. So we have to savor the season. And I'm excited about our guest. So let's bring him in because I know he has a lot to share. And we can delve right into the topic.
Absolutely. Well, I am certainly so excited about our guest that we're getting ready to bring on. When I tell you the perfect guy for this conversation, and I'm going to ask Jalen. Jalen is our operator on today. He does such an amazing job. Bring our guest on. Oh, there he is, Andrè, and play a little bit of the song. What do the lonely do? What do the lonely do at Christmas? You know what? That's a question that I have never asked myself before. And of course, I've heard that song for years and years. And it is kind of a melancholy song. It's not one of those upbeat songs, but I guess the melody is kind of, it's kind of smooth. But I never even thought, what do the lonely really do at Christmas? Because I'm not lonely at Christmas, and there's so many that are not. But the answer to that question is there are so many that are lonely at Christmas. And so on today, we're going to have a lively discussion with our guest who is well-versed, well able to shed some light on this topic. What do the lonely do? Or better yet, what will the lonely do at Christmas? And so let me just tell you a little bit about our guest on today. I mean, his bio is absolutely amazing. It is definitely among the who's who in the Detroit metropolitan area and abroad. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then I'm going to have him brag on himself as we do on this show. I want him to talk a little bit about himself and how he got into this line of work. Okay, so Andrè Johnson is a native Detroiter, and he is the founder and president and CEO of the Detroit Recovery Project Incorporated, which is a nonprofit certified community behavioral health clinic, health clinic with 2 clinics and 2 recovery houses, you guys, in the Detroit metropolitan area, delivering services to more than 3,000 people annually. The Detroit Recovery Project provides, I love this, comprehensive, integrated health services that include a full range of mental health, substance and use disorder services such as primary care, therapy, psychiatric evaluation, peer recovery coaching, GED preparation, 12-step support groups, housing assistance, job readiness, employment assistance, as well as HIV prevention, testing, counseling, and human reduction services. So when I tell you, when I read this, I said, wow, this is a one-stop shop. If you have any kind of issues going on, listen, you go right there and they can point you in the right direction. I also want to share, just so you know just how phenomenal Mr. Johnson is. He was recognized internationally for his work in the field of addiction. In 2016, Mr. Johnson was recognized at the White House by President Barack Obama as the 2016 Champion of Change for Prevention. And that is just a little bit of his background. And when I tell you, I am so excited again to have him grace the stage, the radio with We Got Issues. Mr. Johnson, how you doing? How you doing?
I am wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And thank you so much for inviting me to be a guest with you all this evening. It's certainly a pleasure. And for me, it's really important to have this conversation. When you first mentioned that topic to me earlier this week, what would a lonely do for Christmas? I just chuckled to myself thinking about the music, but I also thought about the seriousness that comes along with being lonely. We know, and as Sabrina has already said, that Christmas is a time for joy and happiness and eating and celebrating with family, friends, and loved ones. But when you have lonely people, a lot of times people experience what I would say their mental health is impacted, and two areas that's usually impacted is one is anxiety, an increased anxiety, as well as an increase in depression. And it's important to recognize some of the symptoms that often go along with feeling either depressed or anxiety during Christmas because you're not able to celebrate with family, friends, or loved ones. And some of the symptoms consist of an intense feeling of sadness. Your sadness is intense. Feelings of hopelessness and worthlessness. And that's a really dark space to be in when you have those kind of feelings.
Absolutely.
Low energy, changes in appetite. We know we live in a society where the weight fluctuates, and it's also people experience a lot of shame and guilt. And so shame and guilt, if there's parents who are not able or have not been able to be there for their children, just think the shame and the guilt is intensified. A lot of
Andrè,
obsession. Yes.
let me ask you this, because everything that you're sharing right now, you're telling us how people are feeling, and that is so important because sometimes it's very easy to not understand why everybody isn't as happy about Christmas as you are, why everybody isn't excited about, we got, 10 days, 12 days, 15 days left till Christmas. So I appreciate you sharing that so that we can be more sensitive and more in tuned into, how other people may be feeling. So my question to you is, what made you, because in talking with Daryl a little bit, and he was sharing a little bit of your story, you didn't get a chance to tell me everything. What made you want to go into this as an occupation?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means is I haven't used drugs and alcohol in over 33 and a half years. And prior to me finding recovery, I remember experiencing bouts of depression and anxiety because my life had gone down this downward spiral from experimenting with drugs and alcohol at an early age. And so when I found recovery, I also found a new meaning and purpose in life. And part of that for me meant to help others who may be struggling with substance use disorders. And so over the years, my life has obviously evolved since I've been drug and alcohol free. And I also began to educate myself and learn the importance of having services for people who have mental health and substance use disorders. I had the privilege of working out of the city of Detroit, old Herman Kiefer Hospital many years ago. And I began to see the data around the city of Detroit. For example, at the time, we were averaging about 15, 16,000 people in substance abuse treatment per year. And the statistics said that these individuals were relapsing, which meant they were returning to active drug and alcohol use within the first 30 days of completing the drug treatment program. And so I always pose the question, you can't expect a fish to stay clean when you put it in dirty water. People need support in their communities. We had to have resources available for people once they exit residential programs. And for me, that was really the catalyst for starting the Detroit Recovery Project, having an agency in the community that can meet people exactly where they are. A significant number of our staff, we have about 50 employees, and we all have a very colorful past. And we have this peer-to-peer approach, which means, we kind of help, we know where most people have been to some extent, and we can relate to some extent. And that's been proven to be an effective approach to be that beacon of hope for others, to recognize people that, you're not alone out here, and that it's not, you have an opportunity to change.
Awesome. Well, Andrè, thank you so much. We're going to come back and we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to a break. You guys are listening to 910 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF, right out of Detroit. And our guest is Andrè Johnson. And we're talking about what do the lonely do at Christmas. After this break, we'll continue the conversation. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. We are back. We are back. You are listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 910 a.m. the Superstation. And we are excited to have our guest with us today. It is Andrè Johnson. He is the president and CEO of the Detroit Recovery Project. And oh my gosh, this is such a topic discussion that is so important, especially as we are getting closer to Christmas. We are 15 days away from Christmas. And so we're talking about what do the lonely do at Christmas. And right before the break, Andrè, you were just talking about you had your 15 staff members, I believe you said, and that all of them come from very colorful backgrounds. And, you know, when you said it, I thought, wow, how awesome it is. There are some times in life that when we go through struggles and we go through our issues, they're to prepare us for something else. It's to prepare us to help somebody else. And I said earlier at the beginning of the show, you know, you can't judge somebody until you've walked in their moccasins. And it's just so good to know that many of you have been there, done that. And so you absolutely know how these people feel. And so you're able to, and I will say, minister to them at a different level because of your background. But before we go into some more details of that, we do have a caller. Nicole, are you there on the line? Are you there, Nicole? Okay. Well, Nicole, please give us a call back, and we would love to hear your question or your issue that you'd like to pose to our guest. We're excited to see Gloria Mayfield Banks. She has made it.
Hey.
She is here. She is here.
I am so excited to hear about this show. I'm so excited to hear about this show, and I'm so excited to hear from you, Andrè. Thank you so much for joining us, because this is such a real issue. And what I want to just say is that it's nice to be able to talk about the issues that not everyone is talking about, so that we can make a difference for those who need it, because we get so happy, many of us, in the holidays, that we tend to forget those who need us the most. So I'm so excited for you to enlighten this conversation for us all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sabrina?
Yeah, Andrè, thank you. You're doing amazing work. Thank you for being such an asset to our communities. I have a couple of questions. Well, one is a statement. I recently found out that 1 of every 4 people are estranged from a parent. That blew me away.
Wow.
1 of every 4 estranged from a parent. And that's tremendously sad, but it's real. And the other, and so I'm sure, because you talk about drug addiction, anxiety, and your recovery program, how do people enter your program? Is it a free program? What does it cost? How is your program funded? And are there programs in other cities that people can tap into? Because what I found many times is people don't know how or where to find the resources like yours.
Absolutely. Great point and great question. The first part, I want to answer the question when you talk about people who may not have their parents to turn to during these days. It can be a very difficult time. To not to be able to celebrate the holiday with your mother or father can be very challenging. And I think it's important that we be mindful of that when it comes to our friends and loved ones that may not have their parents. It just takes a moment to do a kind act. It takes a moment to demonstrate empathy, demonstrate care and concern, and be genuine. I think it's about balance. When you talk about people accessing services, we're certainly here in the heart of Detroit. We have an East Side and West Side location, and you can always go to our website, which is recovery4detroit.com.
I'm sorry, what is it? What is recovery? What? Recovery?
The
what?
number, recovery4detroit.com. And that's the number 4, recovery4detroit.com. That's at least here in Detroit. If you're somewhere else around the country, you can always Google looking for recovery communities. Just Google recovery community organizations. We're known as a recovery community organization, and we're also known as, Crisette said earlier, certified clinical behavioral health clinic. And what that means is we integrate both physical health and behavioral health together. And so we have a holistic approach, which means we have a team of psychiatrists, nurse practitioners, physicians, social workers, and psychologists and peers to help people from a more holistic perspective and meeting people exactly where they are. because people come to us. Some people come to us don't have no family, and then some people have family support. And so again, it's really meeting people where they are. But when we talk about this topic, I think it's also important to consider balance, really having balance, because this is a time where people overindulge, often spending money that they may not can afford to spend to try to,
Right.
it's a lot of overindulging in eating. It's a lot of overindulging in consuming alcohol. Drugs are very proliferated in our community. And so it's important to think about balance. And it's also important for people who are lonely to think about things that you can do as an individual to lift your spirits. Or and it don't necessarily mean that a person is homeless or perhaps financially broken. This affects people of all walks of life during this time. We call this season.
Right.
We call this season the Big Three: Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's in the recovery realm. Because during this period, everything is intensified, and so it's important to exercise, perhaps meditate, perhaps do yoga, or listen to some good music, or go volunteer at a church, volunteer at Meals on Wheels, do something for somebody else. That's what we try to promote. Do something for somebody else and do a kind act. Call somebody that love you and care about you. Have good conversations. I'm sorry, Gloria.
You know what? I just wanted to highlight something that you said that's so critical. We see the obvious, the homeless, the broken, we see that, but we don't see the silent ones, the ones that are home by themselves, the ones that are hurting in their heart, the ones that, they're afraid to be loud about their pain. And we don't talk about them. We don't talk about doing for them. We don't even call them to acknowledge them because we don't know. And I think it's like with the domestic violence situation, we don't talk about it. So the silence peripheralates. What's the word? Peripheralates. Something. Yeah, that's it.
Proliferation.
Okay. Whatever spreads.
We got it.
Situation. It spreads the situation. And so I think that the silence here also spreads. So I just want to say, Andrè, that statement is so critical. And because we're talking about it, it causes people to lean in. And one of the skill sets we all need is, how do you do that? They don't raise their hand, so they're not even saying or even acknowledging that they need help. And if you talk to them the wrong way, they get offended. But if you leave them alone, that's, like you said, the Big Three goes from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's. And by the time you get to them, it's Valentine's Day, Right. So what are the skill sets that people need to lean into with that level of people that are invisible?
I think it's really about us being intentional. Really being intentional with our interactions with other people. And sometimes it's just asking a question. It's like today I was sitting down with an individual who's 73 years old. And I said, you don't really talk deep about what's going on with you. And he said, I don't really have nothing to talk about. And then I said, I'm going to just let that sit for a minute. And then he said, I'm feeling bad right now because I haven't talked to my daughter in over 25 years. And I don't understand why she don't talk to me. And he started crying. And so we talked and we continued to engage in a conversation. And if you was to see this guy, beautiful home, West Bloomfield Hills, beautiful car, but I realized he has some pain and hurt and some grief behind not having a healthy relationship with his daughter. And so I just think for me, it's just being more intentional with our interactions of individuals and asking questions and just really asking meaningful questions as best as possible and offering and providing a safe space for people to talk. Because when people are already depressed, they're already kind of not in that space to talk. And usually when you're depressed, you want to isolate. And it's easy to isolate when you have physical things. But when somebody challenges you and say, well, come on over to my family house and eat Christmas dinner because I know your mother's not living. I know you're having a strange relationship with your siblings. It's just an easy conversation to help people break that mold.
Wow,
Does
that
make
is so, yeah, that is so good, Andre. And I love the word you use, intentional. And that means when you're intentional, you don't give up. You keep at it until you're able to, not pride, because of course, people can be very private and, they'll only tell you what they want you to hear. However, that intentional part is so important as we are moving into this Christmas holiday. We're going to go for our next break, and when we come back, we will continue our conversation on what do the lonely do at Christmas. You're listening to 910 AM, the Superstation. We got issues with the force of friendship, and our guest today is Andrè Johnson. We'll be right back after the break.
Thank you.
All right, we are back. We are coming back hot. You're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 910 AM, the Superstation. And we are here today with our guest, Andrè Johnson, who is the founder and CEO of the Detroit Recovery Project, which is a nonprofit. And they are doing such great work right here in the Detroit metropolitan area. And we're so grateful and thankful that this organization exists because so many people out there are needing help. And so, Andrè, we want to shift the conversation a little bit and talk about our young people. Our young people, I was talking with Daryl, and I'm going to be doing some things with him, going to some of the high schools and talking to the young people there. And one of the things that he was sharing with me was the various drugs that are out there in the streets. And I mean, he began to name things that I have never heard of. And I know, many times, they get involved in drugs as a coping mechanism. And so can you talk to us a little bit about our youth, some of the things that are going on, and, some of the signs that parents can look for, because it's not just kids that are homeless. It's kids that, like you said, are, from a home and a mother and a father. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
I think it's really, going back to, building off of the word intention. It's about being intentional with our kids. It's about building relationships with our kids and teaching our kids how to embrace a value system. Often kids these days are consumed with social media, consumed with looking at pictures, consumed on Instagram, and it takes away. I mean, it's about just helping them build a value system and teaching them by example. And sometimes it's taking the kids to a homeless shelter and helping them feed people, teaching them community service work. It's about teaching them how to resolve conflict, how to build their self-esteem, how to be responsible, how to govern themselves. The drugs are just coping mechanisms to escape some feeling. Perhaps their household may be some, dysfunction going on between parents or spouse rivalry or sibling rivalry. And so we got to love our kids. We got to meet them where they are. And we need to sometimes listen to them, because I come from an era where, you talked at, but you wasn't always listened to. And so for me, I've learned the value of really working more hard to hear what they are saying. And the more we can hear what they are saying, we can begin to provide some support, and ask them how they feel and why they feel the way they feel. I mean, the depression and suicide rate among African-American kids have been on a rise. Overdose death rates in terms of fentanyl and drug usage has been on the rise. And we've seen an increase in violence and everything in the midst of the last couple of years since this pandemic. Think about COVID-19. I'm sure all of us can think about several people who are no longer here. And so I can't help but to think about their children and spouses and loved ones they left behind during this period. And so if we're gloating in the material world, sometimes that can, affect kids in a negative way, because now they strive to obtain material things instead of striving to pursue an education and get a skill so that they can do well and be independent in their lives. But so I think our kids are having some really hard times these days because we didn't have the distractions of social media back in the 80s, perhaps.
Right. And I think a lot has changed. Absolutely. I know that I think they're before Congress right now talking about Instagram and how it is affecting young women with the images that they're seeing on Instagram. And so, social media, it's one of those pendulums, it swings one way, it's really good. But you better know it can swing the other way. And just as good as it can be, it absolutely can cause some negative things to happen as well. And I think everything in modesty and, trying to put things in place and making our young people understand everything that they see in social media is not necessarily real. There are a lot of people, and Andrè, I'm sure you've heard the story. There are a lot of people that refuse to get vaccinated because of something they heard or saw on Facebook that they didn't vet, they didn't find out if that person was a real doctor, if what they were saying was absolutely the truth. So
Right.
people are making decisions on their health based on stuff they see in social media without even knowing that these people are who they really say they are. Then of course our young people who aren't as mature, who may not understand that, you know, this is fake and this is made up, it's not real. So I think what you said is really paying attention to our young people is so important. Sabrina or Gloria, did you have something you wanted to chime in?
You know, I would love to ask. I mean, I'm just always looking for the advice. You know, we have a loud presence here, and when we're up against social media, when we're up against these forces that come, especially in our community, it almost feels daunting sometimes. And you know, what do we do? Like really, when you said, you know, take people to, you know, when you know, the teenagers turn their head and like really,
Right.
you know, you got to drag them. And, you know, we do know once you drag some of them, you know, day 2, day 3, they turn around. But I love to hear some success stories or some success things that people have done that have made a difference for some of these young kids. Because when you hear the drug numbers going up like it is, it feels, I'm not discouraged, but I don't feel skilled.
Yeah, and I think you know, you said it really well in terms of the pendulum swinging. It's a slippery slope, but I've also seen young kids say, "Hey, I'm going to pull back from social media. I'm going to do it in moderation. In fact, I'm going to just have certain follow. I'm going to follow people that are leaders. I'm going to follow entrepreneurs. I'm going to follow motivational speakers. I'm going to follow
That's
people
good.
who have the word and the scripture. I'm going to get away from just following people because of what they're wearing on the outside or what they're driving, but versus following somebody based on their value system, following somebody who's working on building their self-esteem or following a leader. So I think it's really just shifting. And again, more than anything, is having that balance and teaching kids how to have that balance. I'm not saying social media is a bad thing. It can be a bad
Right.
thing if it's abused. I think as adults and parents, we have to monitor kids. I mean, if you're on social media for 6, 7 hours a day, and that's the information that's going inside of you, then those are going to have an impact on your thoughts. So how do we begin to begin to balance positive thoughts and positive influences? Because we know that just for every negativity that we may see on social media, there's also a cadre of positive people who are trying to spread love, trying to spread hope, trying to empower people.
Right.
And that's what young people need. They have to be empowered. They have to be encouraged. They have to be educated. And we're adults, and it's our responsibility to educate, empower, and again, demonstrate love and care. I love what you talked about earlier in terms of walking in my shoes. You know, teaching kids how to be passionate, teaching them how to be compassionate. I mean, we know, like last week, we had this Oxford shooting. You know, we
Right.
know it's a whole bunch of families grieving right now. It's a whole bunch of families,
A
you
lot.
know, gonna experience a lot of grief and sadness during this period from those from the violent acts. And so it's important to flip that negative energy to just love and care and concern.
So, Andrè, I would love to hear more about your story, how you came to this place. 33 and a half years of sobriety is commendable. Congratulations.
Right.
We know it's not easy. I don't know a family who has not been affected by addiction, and it
Right.
doesn't affect the user, it affects the user and the family members.
Right.
So tell us a little more about your story. Don't be modest. We want to know about you and how you've done what you've done.
Well, so I'll tell you this. I was smoking crack and I was strung out. I started off as a drug dealer and I was smoking and selling crack and heroin in cash corridors. And I hit a rock bottom. I hit a bottom when my mother told me I was no longer allowed to be in her house. My house got shot up. A lot of people got harmed and hurt because of my actions. And I just hit a bottom. And I remember the bottom I hit in July of 1988. I came clean to my probation officer and I told him I needed help. And once I got done telling him I needed help, I remember just crying, just tears just flooding me. And a lot of it had came from a place of despair, desperation, depression, angry with myself, disappointed in myself. And at that point, my probation officer, his name was Donald Hooks. He personally transported me to a drug treatment center that day, 2 hours later. And when I got to that drug treatment center, I slept for 2 days, 48 hours. And when I woke up and, here I am, this black kid from the east side of Detroit, I always heard, don't trust white people. But I had a white therapist. She was 5 foot flat and her name was Wanda with white hair. And I didn't care if she was purple, green, or black. All I know is I needed help. And the thing she taught me the most was, Andrè, your past does not define your present. You have an opportunity to change your life. You have an opportunity to transform who you were. And just those kind words, the way she gave it to me in a love, caring way, all I know is I felt like Luke Skywalker and she was my Yoda. You know what I mean?
Wow,
She
Andrè,
taught me to go in.
Stick a pin right there, because when I tell you this
Right
is
there.
so good and juicy, we are going to come right back to continue your story right after this break. You're listening to We Got Issues, 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. We'll be right back. All right, we're coming back. We are coming back. Oh my goodness, you're listening to We Got Issues on 910 a.m. the Superstation. And our guest today is Andrè Johnson, the founder and CEO of the Detroit Recovery Project. And before the break, he was telling us his story. When I tell you this is made for TV story, we're all, leaning in close, trying to hear all of it. But Andrè, we want you to continue your story. But before you do, we have a caller on the line. Daryl, are you there?
Absolutely. I am enjoying this immensely. Absolutely a pleasure to hear my good friend and my brother and my cousin to me give this powerful story, this powerful testimony to the people. I tell them all the time that his story is a movie, it's a book, it's something, everything, because it's about transformation, it's about the hand of God, it's about Black excellence and resilience.
Yes. Now that's a lot. Black excellence and resilience. Those are sweet sounding words in our ears for sure. And I know, Daryl, you and Andrè have a little bit of history, and we absolutely got to have both of you come on the show together to talk about it, because of course we've had Daryl Wood, Elder Daryl Wood on We Got Issues, and oh my goodness, the good work that you're doing and your story is powerful too.
For how many years was it, Daryl?
28 years and 11 months.
28 years and 11 months. And when I tell you, he is out in the city of Detroit and the surrounding metropolitan areas.
And he is making up for 28 years and 11 months, pouring in and just being a blessing to the community. And these are the kind of stories that give us hope. These are the kind of stories that let you know that it's not where you start, it's where you finish. Where you begin, it may not be a pretty picture, but you know what? If you live long enough and you want to change, you can. And with that change, you can change the lives of so many others. And so kudos to you, Daryl. And again, we are enjoying Andrè. And so, Daryl, thank you so much for calling in. We got issues, and we appreciate you supporting us. And thank you so much for making the connection with Andrè, because I'm telling you, this is so good. So, Andrè, we're going to go back to you.
I'm muted for whatever. Okay, we're going to go back to you, Andrè. Go ahead and continue your story.
Well, I do want to say Daryl is a good friend of mine. I'm gonna blow his anonymity. His nickname, I didn't even know his real name. I just knew him by his nickname in the 80s, which was Psych, which is short for psychotic. But I'll tell you this. I had made peace years ago that I would never ever see Daryl or have a conversation with him because I knew that he was serving life in prison. And so when he got released, I remember just breaking down in tears of joy and happiness and looking at how God worked. And I know that the work that he did behind bars are the work that he's doing in the community. And he's a pillar in our community. And I think Daryl and I share a lot of similar backgrounds and hardships experienced in life, trying to be fast at a young age. When I found recovery, I found God. And when I found God, I just began to believe that I can really do anything I aspire to do. And what that meant for me was, once I got clean, year 1, year 2, I went back to school and obtained my GED at 21 years old.
Wow.
Year 4, I was blessed and fortunate to get admitted into Morehouse College. And, imagine being at an HBCU. And it was just a phenomenal experience because I was attending a friend of mine's graduation, and I didn't know nothing about Morehouse or HBCUs because of my lifestyle. And I remember sitting in the audience and observing people like Oprah Winfrey and Bill Cosby, and just the joy of watching 500 Black men cross that stage. And it just hit me so much. I mean, you ever just had something hit you? And I remember sitting in the audience with 5 of my friends from Detroit. All 6 of us had gone in on a room at the Holiday Inn, sharing one room. That's how we did it. You know, that's all
You do
that
what
was
you
the
gotta
best
do.
we could
Gotta
do.
do.
I don't know if y'all ever had them kind of hardships
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
when
we
you're
had them
young and
days.
trying to figure it out. But all I know is May of 1994, as we began to go back home after celebrating the graduation, I leaned over to my friend and said, "I'm going to Morehouse." He said, "Man, shut the you up. You're going back to the east side." And all I know is I got back home and I prayed and I prayed, and the next thing you know, I applied to go to Morehouse. And the following Monday after that Thanksgiving in 1994, I received a congratulatory letter, and I started Morehouse
Wow.
in January of 1995, and I graduated in May of 1998. And you should have saw the joy. You should have saw the hope just increase. And I was praying. I remember
I should have
reading
known you was a
the
Morehouse
book of
man. I should have known you was a
Jabez.
Morehouse man. I should have known you was a Morehouse man. I should have known you was a Morehouse man.
And when I was in Morehouse, all I thought about was people like Martin Luther King and Andrew Young,
Right.
and a number of prominent leaders like Spike Lee and Sam Jackson. I had an opportunity to meet them and just meet a whole variety of Black men who were excelling in their fields. And when you go to Morehouse, it's a mandate and there's an expectation that you leave there and you do something good, not only in your career, but you have responsibility to your community. And so for me, I took that with me as I came back home to Detroit. I knew I had to do something meaningful and purposeful in the community. And that was always keeping my eye on the prize. And so today I'm having fun doing what I want to do, enjoying life, enjoying the opportunity to hire our people, enjoying the opportunity to help our people and do something meaningful. It's nothing more meaningful than helping somebody lift themselves up.
Hey, Andrè, tell them what you're doing right now. You're in your third year of your doctoral.
Yes. I'm finishing up my semester. In fact, I got a final I got to work on tonight. I'm finishing up my third.
We got
year,
issues. You have to
pursuing
come
my
visit.
PhD. I got issues. Got a lot of issues, but I'm working on obtaining my PhD in clinical psychology. I want to one day start a private practice where I see clients on a one-on-one basis. I'm currently a therapist, and I'm also a CEO. And so I wear a lot of hats. I'm also a husband. I'm also a father to 2 kids that I love dearly. And so God has given me a meaningful life, changed the whole course of my life. You could not have told me in 1988 when I contemplated jumping off that Detroit bridge, off the Bel Air bridge, because that depression had hit me so badly. And I was 18 years old.
Andrè, we are so thankful that you didn't jump off that bridge, because I promise you, you have saved so many other young people and others from feeling like the only choice they had was to jump off of a bridge. Oh my goodness, this conversation was so good, so rich. I hate that we're coming to an end, but I want to thank you again, Andrè, for sharing what you do. Keep up the good work. Keep doing what you're doing. And we know, I can't wait till we can say that was Dr. Andrè Johnson.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
We're going to bring Dr. Andrè Johnson back too. We got issues. You guys, we are so grateful and thankful that you joined us on today. We want you to have a super fantastic weekend, and we will be back on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We got issues. God bless you. Until next time. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.